And so Samson was a man. He could do incredible things. He could catch 300 foxes, and he could strike down and kill 1,000 men, and he led Israel for 20 years. He wasn't a king, but he was a judge. He was a judge. That's why he's written in the book of Judges, because he was one of Israel's judges. So he ruled as a judge for 20 years. But then something happened after those 20 years. Something familiar that happened with his first wife. He ended up meeting a woman named Delilah. He ended up meeting a woman named Delilah. So guys, like I said, the title for today's Bible study was called Time for a Trim. Because Samson ended up getting a haircut because he didn't end up trimming unhealthy attachments and unhealthy alignments with people that weren't for him. He was never called to be with Philistine women. He was called to deliver his people from the Philistines. And if you don't discern between what you're supposed to, if you don't discern between what you're supposed to deliver others from, it'll end up being your demise. That's why we need deliverance, because if we don't get delivered, guess what? It's going to lead to our destruction. It's going to lead to our destruction. And if you have a question about how to discern, we'll get into that. We'll get into that, y'all. So let's keep reading. Let's keep reading and let's see what happens. Let's keep reading and let's see what happens. Let's keep reading and seeing what happens. So then one day, as the Bible says, one day, and anytime the Bible says one day, you know it's got to be crazy. One day, Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. Mind you guys, Samson was somebody who was called to be set apart from the day. Oh, this is the NIV version. Samson was somebody who was called to be set apart from the day that he was born. And whenever you are set apart by God, just because everybody else does it, doesn't mean that you are going to escape. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. I'm gonna say, let me preface this. Here's the thing. When you're called and set apart by God, you can do the same sin as somebody else, but you will experience a different consequence. Why? Because you were set apart and because you know better. You can do the same sin as somebody else, but when you do it, the consequence will be different. Because why? You were called to be set apart. You were called to be set apart. So because Samson's not the first person to sleep with a prostitute. Why? But the consequence was different for him. The consequence was different for him. And I'm not saying that sin is sin. But guess what? The consequences of our sin in the natural world is different. The Bible says that the wages of sin is death. We already know that. But what I'm saying is the consequences that we face in the natural world on earth is different. It's different. Why? Because, for example, if I steal something versus if I were to murder someone, the consequence is different, right? But I still broke the law. It's the same thing. A law broken is a law broken, but the consequences are different. The consequences are different on earth compared to what we did. And what I'm saying is there's no difference in sin, as in all sin is on the same level. But what I'm saying is the consequences of the sin is different. If I were to, like I said, if I were to steal versus if I were to kill, they're both wrong. They're both sin, but the consequences of it in the natural world is different. That's what I'm talking about. In the natural world, I'm talking about on earth. On earth. On earth. So here's the thing. Because Samson, yes, what I'm saying is, do y'all understand what I'm saying? every sin is the same, as in sin is sin. But what I'm saying is the consequences of each sin in the earthly world is different. For example, just making sure y'all got it. Just so y'all follow me here. Just the same way that if I were to steal on earth, that may be a misdemeanor, depending on what I stole. But if I were to do premeditated murder, guess what? That's a first-degree felony. So that's the thing. Same sin, right? A broken law is a broken law, but the consequences are different. So Samson was somebody that an angel of the Lord, before he even came onto the earth, told his family that he is set apart by God. He cannot drink. He cannot cut his hair. That was the standards that he was given. And his mom was told to do the same thing whenever she was pregnant with him. So Samson here in chapter 16, verse 1. One day Samson went to Gaza. He saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. What does this tell us? This tells us because previously we also heard about a different woman that Samson was with, another Philistine woman, right? And messing with the wrong type of women. So the Bible begins to reveal to us that Samson had a problem. That Samson had a problem with being in relations with the wrong type of woman. And if you guys have a question or anything like that, I will answer you guys' question towards the end. I do Q&A and things like that towards the end. I'm not ignoring comments, but I have to get through the story. I have to get through the story. So what the Bible is revealing to us is he was so strong in physical strength, but when it came to choosing women, he was weak. He was strong physically, but when it came to women, he was weak. And this is why we have to be careful to ask ourselves, what is our weaknesses? What is our weaknesses? Because you may be strong in one area, but there's another area of your life that you may be really weak. And you think, because I'm strong in this area, that'll make up for this weakness. But what I'm saying is we at least have to be able to be aware of our weaknesses. That way we can be vigilant to know, oh snap, no, I gotta be on guard with this because I have a weakness for this. And our weaknesses are different. For example, we can take an analogy and say for some of us, let's just say in regards to food, right? For some of us, your weakness may be, you just love some ice cream. And for somebody else, they could walk past the ice cream aisle, they could walk past the freezer all day, and there's nothing, they don't have an issue. But if you know your weakness is ice cream, you know what you do? You stay away from the freezer aisle.